Welcome to the Creative Cast. I'm your host, Tammy Munson, podcast producer, coach, and CEO of Wildfire Creative. Are you struggling to grow and monetize your podcast? Want to learn more about starting your own podcast? Are you looking for the secrets behind the business side of podcasting? Well, friends, you are in the right place. Here on the Creative Cast, I'm going to be sharing all the tips and tricks on all things podcasting for the faith-based podcaster. Each episode is going to contain powerful information to help you get started with your own podcast, learn the secrets of building a business, and of course, growing and monetizing your podcast. All right, y'all, without further ado, let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Creative Cast. I'm Tammy Munson. I am so excited that you are here again with me this week. Y'all, I just have to say that I have been loving being back with y'all and doing podcast episodes again because this is really what I live for. This is what kind of started everything, my love of podcasting. And I just wanted to say that it's been on my heart to say this. And that even though we are now Wildfire Creative, it's still my mission to help you love your podcast, to see it grow, to engage with your audience, and to build it like a business, to help you reduce the overwhelm, the fear of the technology, all the things. So if your podcast has been out in the world for a while and you're thinking, I want my podcast to be more than just a one-way conversation and not really getting any kind of interaction or engagement. I want to be able to connect with my audience. Or maybe you just want to create a more personal connection with your listeners to develop that know, like, trust factor. Maybe it's to create a community around your podcast. Maybe you're ready to start monetizing your podcast. And in the state of this current economy, I get that, friend. I'm not going to get political or anything like that, but it is tough all around right now. Or, maybe you already know that having more listener engagement is one of the key ways to do all of the above, but you're just not sure how to do that. No worries, friend. I got you. And that is exactly what we are talking about today. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about audience engagement, how to get your audience to engage with you. Now, I've got 5 tips for you today, and I've used these tips with all of my clients over the years. So I know they work with some planning, some thought, some strategy, and execution. But before we get into any of that, I need you to ask yourself a question. What do you want your audience to do? Because for them to engage with you, you need to tell them what you want. They're not mind readers. This is not build it and they will come. So you need to ask yourself, what do you want them to do? What action do you want them to take? Do you want them to subscribe to your podcast, visit your website, rate and or review your show, sign up for your email list? Maybe it's all of the above, but you got to start with one step for your audience to take. Now that brings me into tip number 2. We need to make it easy for them to take that action. So no matter what the action is, we need to make sure that it's super easy for your audience to take that intended action. So maybe you're looking for more email subscribers on your email list, or maybe it's filling out a form on your website. Whatever it is, you're going to include those relative links in your show notes and make these links easy to do. Use Bitly or Pretty Links plugin for WordPress. Make the links super easy and easy to remember, not only for you to say them, but for them to remember them. So for example, if you were signing up to be a guest on this podcast, which I would absolutely love if you would do that, you would go to wildfirecreativecompany.com/be our guest. And that's going to take you directly to that form. The actual URL for that form is very, very long with lots of letters and numbers, and I would never remember it in a million years. So we make that short link so it's easy for me to remember it when I say it, but it's also easy for people to remember. So maybe you're in the camp of, I'm just looking for more feedback on the show. What does my audience really want? Well, then you're going to provide links to your show on Apple, Spotify, Podchaser. That's going to take them directly to the option of leaving a rating and a review, because we want both. We really want that review. The rating is great. It helps drive those numbers up. But the review really tells people why they like it, and that's exactly what we want. So if you're looking for more direct engagement with your audience, of course, where are you going to go? You're going to go to social media, because that's the best place for that direct, in real time engagement, because that's exactly what the platforms are set up to do. And I'll talk more about social media in just a minute. Let's make it super easy to get that engagement. And we're going to utilize the KISS method. So if you don't know what the KISS method is, it stands for keep it simple, sweetie. Fill in whatever other S word you prefer. Nobody's stupid here, y'all. Nobody. But one of the other key things that I see from people who are clients and non-clients is that they're not getting engagement because they're not producing content that drives that engagement. Do these kinds of things on social. Use attention-grabbing posts that pose questions that they can answer. Open-ended questions, not the yes or no questions. I mean, they work, but the open-ended gives you a little bit more into where they're coming from with that feedback. Use stories to run polls, or let your listeners know you're going live at a specific time on whatever your favorite platform is, and invite them to join you. Now, these are all significant basic steps, foundational steps from building open lines of communication between you and your listeners. But the more you create opportunities for engagement, the more frequently that engagement can occur. And by making it as easy as possible to give you the desired response, the higher the probability of listeners taking that action. Now, tip number 3, ask questions and encourage feedback. And we talked a little bit about this just a minute ago. But one of the simplest and most effective things that you can do to increase listener engagement is just ask more questions. Questions get people thinking and engage with the content that you're presenting. Because when you encourage your listeners to provide that feedback, your questions are going to be an easy way to open up those channels of communication. So think about those silly icebreakers, and we've all experienced them. You're in a meeting or some sort of event, and somebody says, let's do an icebreaker. Personally, I don't like them. But it does serve a purpose. It helps break the ice and gets people who don't know each other talking and find common ground. Now, you can think of the questions that you want to pose to your audience as mini icebreakers. Use them to engage with your listeners and have them share feedback. Pose it, hey, I'm trying to make the podcast that you guys want. Let me know what you want to hear about. What topics are you interested in? Things like that. Because you're trying to make your podcast the best that it can be, and you want to keep pushing it out to that next level. The only way you're going to be able to do that is know what your audience wants, because you're doing the podcast for them. They drive the podcast, right? Okay, so I said earlier I was going to talk a little bit more about social media, because this is one of those things that bother me a little bit. And yes, I'm totally going Enneagram 8 here. So I say this, as I usually say before I say something like this, I say this with all the love in my heart. Okay, y'all, here's the truth. You need to get active on social media. Before I start getting emails and notes and all these kinds of things, if you want to branch out into social media with the goal of increasing listener engagement, this is something that you need to do. If you are not using social media marketing with your podcast, I want you to hit pause and go sign up for one platform. You don't need to be in all the places. Choose one. Where your audience is going to be, that's where you need to be. Back on topic. Social media is excellent at fostering audience engagement, whether it's for a podcast or a newsletter or brand awareness or whatever it is the perfect space to do that. It creates the opportunities to connect authentically with your community, your listeners, your audience, whatever it may be. And it's the perfect place to encourage your listeners to take the actions that you've set out in your CTAs or call to actions. The first tip, what are you going to have them do? And then they can share those answers to the question tip that I just mentioned. So, what are some ways that we can encourage audience engagement on social media? First of all, here's my little soapbox moment, y'all. You need to be social. This is not a set it and forget it kind of situation. You need to be social. If you're posting stuff on the regular, which is fantastic, and you're being consistent in good quality content, you also need to be engaging. As people are leaving comments, thank them, comment back, utilize that. But not only on your own posts, you need to also go and engage with other members of your community. If you are doing a nutrition podcast, you should also be engaging with other nutritionists because their audience is also your audience. There's nothing wrong with supporting another person in your same area because you each bring something different to the table. And we need to support each other. If you look around, everybody's fighting with everybody, and that just needs to stop. We need to be kind. Okay, off my soapbox for that. Let's get back to social media. One thing you want to do is create posts that encourage feedback, ask questions, polls, ask for their opinion. The other thing, use live features, because this is a really great way to connect with your audience in real time. You could run an AMA or Ask Me Anything, or you could even do a Q&A thing, put a little sticker up, ask me anything about my podcast. This is a really great way to strengthen their connection with you, develop that know, like, trust factor. The other thing is that I would encourage you to do is do live episode recaps. Now, this is an excellent way to foster that audience engagement. So when you're sharing posts or you're putting regular reminders in the build-up of this live recap, and if you have it at a set time after your most recent episode is published, your audience will start showing up more and more and more. And soon you'll have a hub of engagement centered around your podcast. You're going to be creating that community, creating that tribe. So tip number 5 is create audience-focused episode segments. Now, you've seen me do it here on the show with our coaching time or other particular segments. You've heard it on all the podcasts you've ever listened to. Everybody uses this particular thing, but some people forget about using it and why it's effective because it helps create audience engagement. And you can easily build these segments into your podcast episodes if you're not already currently doing this. So there's many ways to do it. And you really need to pick the method that works best for you, your audience, and your podcast. You don't want to try and force something in there that just doesn't come naturally. People are going to notice that. People don't want fluff, y'all. Seriously. So the first thing is a shout out. Now, I love a good shout out. It's a fantastic way to increase engagement. I mean, who doesn't like to hear their name mentioned by their favorite podcast hosts? I mean, seriously, y'all. You could ask your listeners to send you an email with their shout out request, or you can also use it as an incentive for following your CTA or your ask. So for example, if you're looking for more reviews, you could thank those who recently left reviews on the podcast. You could read a couple of the reviews. People love that. So the other thing is Q&A or coaching time. Now, you can create dedicated questions for your audience segment. For example, you could ask your listeners to send you their answers via email or on a specific Facebook post or Instagram story. And then you can read some of those replies in your next episode. So they're helping you to create content as well as being engaging. And what's more is you can have so much fun with these segments. Make it fun. Make it engaging so that it creates that engagement. You could keep your audience questions related to the topic of your podcast, or maybe even something, if you have a guest on, something that you or your guest shared. But you could also do fun random questions. You could the possibilities are endless because it could be anything from like, would you rather challenges? Would you rather coffee or tea? Queso or salsa? And we all know what the answer is for me, right? I love good queso. But whatever you decide to do, you want to run these segments consistently. Now, they don't need to be every episode, but maybe every other episode, maybe kind of change them up a little bit. But they're going to be a great way to increase your listeners' engagement sky high. Another idea for this is you could use upcoming guests as a basis for your audience-focused segments. Go on social and say, hey, I'm having Lisa Whittle on the show next week. What questions do you want me to ask her? Or Gary Vaynerchuk's going to be on the show, which I would love. Hey, Gary, if you're listening, DM me. But you get my point. This also helps because then you could take this knowledge of the things that they're asking the questions of, whether it's your guest or a review, and then you can meet your listeners' needs and keep positioning your podcast as where they can get the exact content they're looking for. And y'all, that's a win-win in my book. So I know I said 5, but here's a bonus tip for y'all. Host a contest or a giveaway. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this every month or every couple of months, but hosting a contest or a giveaway is a great way to increase listener engagement with your podcast. Because who doesn't love a good giveaway? So do y'all remember my Starbucks gift card giveaway where you could buy anything with the Starbucks gift card except a pumpkin spice latte? It was a really, really big win for us because hosting a giveaway or a contest can be great for increasing engagement depending on how you tailor the entry requirements to meet your needs. Now, this will depend on the type of engagement that you're looking for. So you want to make part of this the entry requirement, if it's more ratings and reviews, share the posts, to tag you, use a particular hashtag, etc., etc., etc. If it's feedback you're after, make leaving comments on your social media posts part of your giveaway entry. Now, the bottom line is this. This can be an incredible engagement booster, but you have to leverage them correctly to achieve the desired results. Put thought and planning and strategy into before you're doing it. You also need to consistently build upon that initial engagement if you want it to be a long-lasting outcome of your giveaway. Now, as you continue to produce engaging content and provide opportunities, whether it's newsletter, whatever it is, the listener engagement will naturally follow. Use those listener-driven segments, host giveaways, whatever action you're going to take, and I guarantee you will see marked improvement in listener engagement. No matter the method, consistency is your watchword. Keep consistently putting out the high-quality content and showing up authentically wherever you connect with your audience. You're going to create the space for enthusiastic listener engagement. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new to the Creative Cast podcast, I welcome you and thank you. You can email me anytime at tammy@wildfirecreativecompany.com or feel free to DM me on Instagram at Wildfire Creative Co. Now, next week, I'm taking a deep dive on the whole podcasting is easy, other half-truths that you need to know about. So I guarantee you don't want to miss that one, y'all. But ladies, I believe in each and every one of you. I think that experience and overwhelm and intimidating tech should not prevent you from reaching your goals, whatever that may be. So let's walk through the journey together so you can spend less time worrying about the details and more time spreading your message and sharing your creativity and all the amazing gifts that God has given you. I hope that you have a great day, and I'll talk to you next Monday. Bye, y'all.